place is being taken over by Q&A with Tipp and Greg.
I'll tell you, I'm hungry. If anything, Greg, I'm hungry now. I mean, I want some pizza. Damn.
Well, you got to say, JC and Iggy leave us on our own, and we find a way to mess it up.
No, we look. What's the saying? When the cat's away, the mice will play. And
that's true. And this is not Sup Home Slice. We just borrowed their background and their intro. We will figure out one day how to operate this thing. But this is questions and answers with the sports affiliations Tipp Major and moi.
And moi, wait, who is moi? Moi is not just moi. Moi is a Hall of Famer with a fedora on.
Well, I told you last week. Janie said I needed a look. Hey, Sniper Mel, how you doing, baby girl?
What's up, Sniper Mel?
This is going to be fun tonight. We have a good game tonight. I'm really looking forward to the football game.
Yes.
But we've also got a lot going on. My Lions now have the best record in the NFL. I am so happy. My baby girl is visiting. She's in Vegas right now, but she'll be back tomorrow. But she's visiting and she watched the Lions and she saw Amon-Ra in that first touchdown. And she said, how does he get so open? And I said, DC's have been asking that for 3 years. They've been trying to figure that out for 3 years. He's 7'11". I told her he's 7'11". She says, what's that mean? I said, he's always open.
He's always open. Always open. That's one of the things I'll tell you. And it's not only just how good Amon-Ra St. Brown is. And you know what? Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of my favorite wide receivers to watch in the NFL. But it's the schemes. It's the play calling. It's all of the above with this offense. It's so fun to watch. It's literally. I want all of Detroit's game next year. If they keep all of this team intact, I want
they're
all
going
of the
games they're going to lose their offensive coordinator. Ben Johnson is going to be a head coach next year.
Well, wait,
could have been this year. Could have been this year.
I think if they win the Super Bowl, yes. If they don't, you don't think they'll run it back one more time, Greg?
I don't think he will because he's given up too much money to be OC when he's going to be a great head coach. This guy, I was watching the highlights because I wanted to see Hendon Hooker.
Yeah.
Now Hooker went 3 of 4. I only saw him throw one pass. He's got good touch. He's got good arm. Okay, we knew that. He can run the ball. He got some rushing yards. I don't remember how many, but he did take a kneel down, so he lost some yardage that way too. Right. But he did do a quarterback sneak for a 2 or 3 yard first down. I want to see this Hooker kid because I think he's got a lot of promise. But Ben Johnson, I'm watching the highlights, and Amon-Ra catches the ball. No big deal there, right? I mean, what, he had 11 catches or something last week? But then he pitches it to Jameson Williams, who runs it for a first down. Now, it wasn't a huge play, and it wasn't like the Laporta pitch a couple games ago that went for a touchdown. But then what I saw in that game was something you cannot coach. I saw Jahmyr Gibbs outrun everybody for 54 yards, and I saw Jameson Williams outrun everybody for a long touchdown. Those guys have speed and speed to burn.
Well, it's funny. They got a really good combination of speed and power because Amon-Ra St. Brown is not a burner. David Montgomery is not. Although David Montgomery last year, you will always tell everybody
he had a big long run.
He had a 75-yard touchdown, but he's not known as a burner. He's more known as a physical running back. But look, this team is a really good combination of both of those things, especially on the offensive side. It's really, really tough to watch.
And
to play against
the highlights, it was a mic'd up highlights with Dan Campbell mic'd up. And you kept hearing him in the second half say, get us our turnover, get us our turnover. We still need a turnover. They're up 35-6, and he's asking for a turnover. And sure enough, there goes a pick. And,
well, you got to love the relentlessness that he has, man, with this team. There was a speech that he gave after the game. I don't remember it word for word, but when I watched it, that I think it was last Sunday night, it was so inspiring. Just so like they just dog walked a team by 45 points, and he was still not satisfied. You could tell that he wasn't satisfied, and he didn't want the team to be satisfied with that either. they want more. They want blood, and it's so fun to watch, man. I can't look. I want to root against the Detroit Lions because that's your team.
You're never coming to my house again. You say that again, you're never coming to my house again.
But no, I want to because I'm jealous. As a Raiders fan, I'm jealous, Greg. I'm jealous of
how many years did you have in Oakland with just win, baby? I mean, come on. You guys have had your years. It's our turn.
I would like to be in my adult years to in order to see some of that. You know, I saw some things happen in 2003. Okay, that was great. You know, John Gruden, whatever you think about him, he did take the team to the Super Bowl. Okay, whatever.
I think he's a good coach. That's what I think about him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good coach. He's a little bit of a head case as well, but we're not even here to talk about that. We are here to answer the questions.
We have questions?
People. We've got questions. We're going to talk about the Idjit call of the week last week and this week. And Greg, you know what? You said that you were going to buy me a Big Mac. Well, by my calculations, I think you owe me 6 Big Macs. So I'm going to go ahead and...
I don't owe you 6. We haven't been doing this for 6 weeks. You get 1 Big Mac a week.
Okay, well, wait, look. If I get 3 in a row, if I get 3 weeks in a row, I'm going to up that Big Mac to a lobster dinner. What do you think?
I think you're out of your freaking mind. I'm not paying $50 for a lobster dinner for you. I will get you a Big Mac. I'll upgrade it to a Big Mac with a fish fillet so you can get your surf and turf. But I'm not buying you I'll tell you what, if you visit me when I'm in the Philippines, I'll buy you a lobster dinner there.
Well, look, Greg, that'll be what? That'll be a few years down the road for me. I'm not going this week.
Well, I won't be there a few years down the road. I'll be there in March.
Oh, I'm not gonna be there in March. Well, man, all right. I guess maybe a Big Mac will be cool. But hey, wait, Greg, before we go, we are gonna answer some questions. Again, we really appreciate all you guys. This is Tipp and Greg from the Sports Affiliation. We come on here every week and we answer questions for you guys. We talk about the Idjit call and then we talk a little bit about the game. But we have a special guest in here, Sniper Mel. Although Sniper Mel booed me, I don't know what's up with that, Sniper Mel. But anyway, I do want to answer her question because she does have a question, and it's a Scott Fishbowl question, Greg. So,
well, yeah, and I got to say, looking at that, I really like the rookie, but in Scott Fishbowl, return yards are so important, and Mims returns kicks. I'm going Mims. Who are you going?
I like to call Mims. I also like Bateman here too, but the return yardage, that is key, Mel. That is really key right now. And with all these bye weeks, I've got several players on my team that are return yardage guys that I've been stashing away for this period right now. So I think, Mims is definitely a good call. I like Bateman as well. He's been doing things. Sanders, the Javion Sanders, that is sneaky because they are going against a Kansas City team. I feel like Kansas City is going to beat the brakes off the Carolina Panthers. They're pissed off from last week, that loss that they had in Buffalo. I think they're going to beat the brakes off of the Carolina Panthers. So what are the Carolina Panthers going to have to do? They're going to have to throw the ball at the end of the game.
And they're watching Detroit put up huge numbers.
Yeah.
And they have to send a message that, hey, we're still the Super Bowl champs.
Yeah. And so I think that they do send that message. But I agree with you, Greg. I think that you go with the Mims this week just because of the return factor. But I think all of those players, except for Vele, I would definitely not consider. But the other 3 players are definitely.
I love Vele. He's got a connection with Bo Nix. And I'm telling you, if you're in a dynasty league, go grab that guy if he's available. Yeah, I think he's going to be a star. That's
a good call. That is a good call for dynasty leagues this week. I mean, you got Cortland Sutton. How much are they going to have to do against my Raiders? Right? Come on, Greg. They're not going to have to do that much against.
You never know. You just never know.
You're right. You never know. But I do know one thing. We're going to get to these questions, and Sean has a question. It's a dynasty league question. I thought it was an interesting one because I actually had a similar scenario that happened to me with this player as well. And he was offered Tyreek Hill for a 2nd-round pick. He said his season has gone nowhere, and he wants to know, would I take this, or would you take this trade? I'm going to answer this one first, Greg, and I would do this trade because it's a dynasty league. Tyreek Hill right now, this season has been a major disappointment for him. Could he come back next season and do that, do what he did in previous seasons? Absolutely. But I just feel like this might be a situation where his head's not in the game. I don't know what's going on. He's got the wrist injury. What's going on there? It's a dynasty league. You got to look for the future. I am all in favor of whenever you start to do a dynasty league. This is your first year. If it's your first year doing a dynasty league, I am in favor of mixing and matching your team as far as how age group wise. So for instance, in one dynasty league that I did, I got Tyreek Hill and I got Travis Kelce. This was a startup league. I mixed it with young and old players. Well, those two old players, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, have been pretty much a disappointment for a majority of the year. And this is a situation where you can still get a second round pick for Tyreek Hill. I don't think Tyreek Hill will go in the first round next year in the dynasty league. I don't think he will go in a redraft league in the first round. He's getting older. I think end of the first round, maybe beginning of the second round, you can see Tyreek Hill pop up. So I think this is a good trade for you. And
I think you're confused.
What do you think? I'm confused
because he was offered Hill for a second round pick. He was not offered a second round pick for Hill, which is what you're saying.
Same. Well, really what he's doing. Okay. So in this case, I would do it either way because you're getting Tyreek Hill off the team. You're getting a better pickup. It's either way for me. I don't want Tyreek Hill anymore. I'm done with it.
All right. So you think it's a fair trade, but you were justifying it based on you were getting the pick and he's not getting the pick. He's getting the player. I disagree with you again. I would jump at this. All right. Revisit your last two drafts and list all the second round picks. How many of them would you give up one-on-one in a trade to get Hill? You know, remember this year,
a ton of players.
This year, Hill hasn't had a quarterback for most of the year. All right.
4 games.
I don't think Hill is any less than he is. And I don't know how old he is, but I don't think he's that old. Is he like 27, 28?
No. He just turned 30 this year.
Okay, but I still don't think he's that old. There are plenty of 30-year-old wide receivers. You know, but when you go look at the players the last 2 or 3 years that went in the second round, and then if less than half of them you would give up to get Hill one-on-one, you keep Hill. You take Hill for the second round pick. If more than half of them you would want over Hill, then you keep the pick. And it's pretty simple to me that when you look at it that way, you just break it down and say, you know, look at the past, learn from the past.
But you, in a dynasty league, Greg, you want to look towards the future. So the reason I jumped at it is because I was offered a first round pick for Tyreek Hill, and I said, here you go. You can have him. In that dynasty league, I haven't been doing that well.
First round pick I would take for Hill.
Yeah. And I think
if I get Hill for a second round pick, I'm going to jump at that. Yeah. I just don't think there's a lot of second round picks in dynasty drafts. Remember, it's mainly rookie only drafts. I don't think there's that many rookies in the second round that hit. And you know what you have in Hill. Okay? Do you really think Hill's going to have Yes, we do. Do you really think Hill's going to have the same season if Tua plays all year next year than he had this year?
There's a lot of ifs with that thing, Greg. I mean, we already seen Tua. If you want to say that, then if Tua even plays next year, because what if he retires?
If Tua retires, I'm pretty sure the Dolphins are either going to trade Hill or they're going to get a different quarterback because they saw that their backups don't do the job. Okay? They're not going to go with the same guys they had on the field this year. And there's too many good quarterbacks available that you can get. I mean, I told you before the show, I liked what I saw from Hendon Hooker. I think Tommy DeVito is going to surprise people this week. I think it's going to be a run-heavy script. Right. But I do think DeVito, I went back and looked at what he did last year, and he was 3-3 last year as a starter. All right. And he had a 65% completion percentage, and he wasn't. See, the problem I have with Cooper Rush and CeeDee Lamb, and CeeDee did play well this last week, but Cooper Rush is throwing an awful lot of 3-yard and shorter passes.
Right.
He's throwing those quick screens. He's throwing the quick outs. He's not really going downfield very much. Now, he did a little bit more this week, but if you look at the first week as a starter, everything was short. You cannot win games throwing 3-yard passes. You got to throw downfield to keep the backs back and open up your running game. So I don't think DeVito's going to have that problem. I think he'll throw the ball downfield. And
I agree.
I really like the Giants' options this week. I really do.
I agree with you 100% on this one because you're right about Tommy DeVito. Last year he came in, they were exactly the same record, 2-8. Daniel Jones has done 2-8 records the last 2 years, and he went out there and won 3 games for them in a row. And it was really cool to see him do that. Everybody was doing this with the Tommy DeVito and all of this and all of that great stuff. And I'll tell you what, Malik Neighbors, this is why one of the reasons I have Malik Neighbors, I want to say ranked right now. Let me look at my ranking. I have him ranked at number 5 because I think he's going to get peppered.
Did you look at his target rates the last 3 games?
Yeah, it's bad.
I do think the targets are going down a little bit because, number one, I do think that DeVito will spread the ball around a little more, but I also think DeVito's only going to throw the ball about 25 times.
And I
think it's going to be a run-heavy script.
It's going to be a run-heavy script, but they're playing against Tampa Bay, and I think that this could be a week that Malik Neighbors does. Look, Malik Neighbors, Daniel Jones, they had one connection, one game together where they had a beautiful connection. I think it was against the Commanders earlier in the season. Other than that, it really hasn't been anything. So I agree. I think
would you start as a flex?
Yeah,
either Wan'Dale Robinson or Darius Slayton in this game. Now, remember, you got to get at least 10 points to be a viable starter.
I mean, I would look for another option.
5 catches, 50 yards.
I would look for another option, but if you got the clamps on me like that, I'm going to go with Wan'Dale Robinson. I just don't think.
Right, but you would start one of them.
Down. I would start. I mean, if you had that option, you have to start one of them. Yes, I would start Wan'Dale Robinson. But if those two are the options, and you have some other players on the bench, I mean, good look, guys. This is a bye week situation that we are going through. It's a bad week this week for buys. So you might be stuck with this situation. I just don't think they're going to throw the ball.
You're not considering.
What is that?
Because you're a fantasy guy. You're not a coach. All right. Who do you think Tommy DeVito has been throwing to in practice all year long?
Well, I think it's been Jalen Hyatt out of. I see.
Well, I think Hyatt and Slayton are the guys he's been throwing to. Okay. So if Slayton's on the field, I think that they have a chemistry. Just saying, I don't know that it'll happen, but you've got to consider that. Anyway, we've got more questions.
Yeah, we do. Let me go to the next question. It's by Eve. So EVE, she asked, do I start? This is a good one because it's a good one. She asked Anthony Richardson or Bo Nix this week. Greg, what do you think?
Well, Richardson, he's got a difficult matchup, but he's going to have to shine for the Colts to have any chance at all because Detroit is going to score points. We know that, all right? Also, no matter how poorly he plays, I don't think he'll be pulled. You know, we know that Joe Flacco occasionally gives them the best chance to win, right?
Right.
I mean, we've said that before, but it would be so detrimental to his confidence. And I believe if somebody pulls Richardson, restarts Richardson, and then pulls him 2 games later, I think somebody's losing their job. Now, Nix, on the other hand, has a sweet matchup, and he does a much better job throwing the ball than Anthony Richardson does. Yeah. Personally, I would go with Nix. He's more stable, and I think he's got a higher floor. Not a ceiling, but a higher floor. I don't think very many players have a higher ceiling than Anthony Richardson. But, you know, I have to acknowledge my personal bias here. I'm a diehard Lions fan, and I'm hoping for another blowout win. So I do believe Richardson, like I said, has a higher ceiling. I just don't think he's likely to reach it this week. And you know I'm pulling for Detroit, not only to sack him several times. You know, they've got Zadarius Smith, who got his first sack last week for the Lions. But also, I can see 2 or 3 turnovers coming from Richardson this week.
Yeah.
What do you think?
This one makes me nervous for Richardson because it's just a situation like you alluded to how good the Detroit Lions defense are when it
We
counts.
weren't saying that
I'm gonna
4 weeks
tell
ago,
you.
though.
No, I'm gonna tell you here what I've noticed. So the Detroit Lions, they will give up the passing yards, but Greg, you're a fan of old school music, right? Have you ever heard of a group called Archie Bell and the Drells?
Yeah, you called them out in your article. You guys, if you don't know, Tipp does a Scott Fishbowl waiver wire pickup article where he targets special teams players, and he tightened up today.
Oh, look, and the Lions have been tightening up when it comes to the red zone. They are the third best teams when it comes up to giving red zone points, and that's touchdown points. I'm not talking about field goals or whatever. We're talking about touchdowns. They are the third best teams giving up red zone points. So, look, the thing about when you have a quarterback is when you have a quarterback, you want them to score in the end zone. You want them to get those touchdowns, however they get it, whether it be rushing, whether it be passing. But the Detroit Lions, they will let you pass on them all day. But when they get into the 20s, or when that offense gets into the 20s, they tighten up. So that's one of the things that I will tell you right now. That is what's got me worried about this team, this Anthony Richardson team, the Colts. I'm going Knicks here because the Raiders have given up. And consequently, they've given up one of the most points to the red zone, and they're giving up 3 touchdowns passing per game in the last 3 games. So that's one.
Who's he going to throw him to? If he gets 3, who's he throwing him to?
I didn't say he's getting 3. I've said the Raiders have allowed.
But if he does, Sutton gets 1.
If he does, I think Sutton gets 1. I believe that one of the running backs, I think probably McLaughlin, he gets 1 as well. I think
probably Javonte. Javonte's on the field for most of the third down snaps.
Yeah, it could be Javonte. But I also like the Vele call. I like the Vele call too. I respect that.
He's a big receiver too.
And then look, they've got little Jordan Humphrey, who is not little. He's like 6'4". And that he could be a guy too. I know last week I was really looking at adding him onto the waiver list, but then when I saw it was really one play that he broke off and got that touchdown, it was a really bad broken play. But also you got to consider they both have rushing upside. Anthony Richardson's rushing upside is probably a little bit better, yes, but Bo Nix his rushing upside is not bad either. He's had games where he's had 75 rushing yards. He has a 60-yard rushing game as well. So I think I'm going to go Bo Nix on here because I feel like that game, the Raiders are going to try to make it competitive. They're playing at home. We still got a little bit of pride on our side, but I just feel like Bo Nix and the way that he's orchestrating this offense and the way that Sean Payton is calling plays right now, it's really favorable for Bo Nix. And I'm not usually a person that chases points, but I'm going to chase this Bo Nix situation that he had last week. I'm going to chase it.
I like Bo. I do. But Sniper Mel in the chat, you guys, you got to come to the chat because tonight's show, when we do the AI segment, there was a lot of information given by the AI on the 3 players. And you're going to need to go in to read it in the chat because we only give you the summary in the show. But Sniper wants to know, should she sit Neighbors on her bench in Scott Fishbowl? And I say no. He's been getting double-digit targets. Last 3 games, he's averaged over 10 targets a game. You've got to have Neighbors in your lineup, even in Scott Fishbowl.
Yeah.
But you really don't want my advice in Scott Fishbowl. I'm like 5-15. My team sucks in Scott Fishbowl. You should ask Tipp, who made the playoffs. Congratulations, buddy.
Made
the playoffs.
Yeah, I made it. I'm
first
there.
year in Scott Fish too, right?
Say it again. Oh yeah, no, I am. And I made the playoffs, although I've got bye weeks from hell this week. I've got Devontae Adams on bye. I've got Bijan Robinson on bye. I've got a lot of situations on there. I'm hoping that, well, not hoping because I don't want this person to not play because of their injury, but I'm hoping Roschon Johnson gets a little bit more run this week. I mean, he showed last week. DeAndre Swift is injured with the groin situation. He did not practice yesterday. So I'm hoping that I can possibly slide Roschon Johnson in there and maybe get a touchdown from him. So that is a player that I'm looking at this week. All right, let's go to our next question. Oh, go ahead.
Well, wait a minute. Before we go to the next question, I've got to read it because you've got to answer it, okay? And the reason is you were so high on this kid, and I was high on the other kid. And that's play action ass Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors this week. Now, I'm high on Neighbors. You were high on Harrison. What do you say now?
Well, no. If you go back and look, I was actually for between the two, I was higher on Neighbors. I've got a couple of bets out there, and they're friendly bets, no money or anything, like friendly bets on Malik Neighbors. So I was higher on Malik Neighbors. It's just in our first show. Shout out to I can't remember his name. He was a Ravens fan. He came on our very first show. Anyway, he mentioned Marvin Harrison, and I told him, I was like, as a player to sit. And I said, how can you sit Marvin Harrison? You just drafted this guy in the second round. And this goes back to Greg's philosophy. Nobody is startable at all times. Anybody can be set. And that week, Marvin Harrison didn't do anything for them. But I'm going Malik Neighbors this week because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are giving up 3 touchdowns. There's 2 teams that are giving up 3 touchdowns in the last 3 games. It's the Raiders and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those teams are giving up those touchdowns. So I'm going Malik Neighbors. I love Danny. I called him Danny DeVito, but I love Tommy DeVito. I think Tommy DeVito is just. I think he's going to show something.
A little bit taller than Danny.
No, Daniel Jones is like 6. Jones is like 6'5".
I think Tommy DeVito is a little bit taller than Danny DeVito.
Oh, yeah, maybe just a tad bit. Yeah. But yeah, no. So I'm going with Malik Neighbors on this one. It's very close. I do like the matchup that the Arizona Cardinals have against the Seahawks this week. But I think Malik Neighbors has that wiggle. I've always talked about that wiggle with him, and that's the thing that Greg, you even alluded to, that wide receivers, if they have that little twitch, that little movement, because these DBs and these safeties are so fast, any small slight movement that will really throw off their game. So I really like Malik Neighbors in this one. But it's
quick twitch. Hey, look, Harrison's a former Buckeye, so you know how I feel. But, I'm going to be honest here. I don't think Marvin Harrison is impacted by matchups. I don't think great matchups or poor matchups matter that much to him. But I don't think that matters this week because I think he's got a favorable matchup this week.
Yeah,
I think the problem with Harrison is one of consistency in scoring and in opportunity. He doesn't always get the targets. If you look at Malik Neighbors' game logs the last 3-4 weeks, 5-6 weeks, he's been very consistently. I think he's only had 1 in 6 weeks where he didn't get a lot of targets. He's been getting a lot of targets. You can't say that about Harrison. He may get 10 targets 1 week and 3 the next. You just don't know what opportunity he's going to get. Now, for Neighbors, the added challenge, he's being with the new quarterback. But I don't think opportunity is in question. I suspect the Giants are going to run a heavy game script, like I'd said, and I really like the running back Tracy this week. But I think Neighbors gets at least 8 targets, and DeVito's going to be a very pleasant surprise for Giants fans. I'm going with Neighbors here.
Yeah, I think that we both agree on that. And Sniper Mel, you need to take Neighbors and put him in the starting lineup somewhere. He cannot be on your bench this week. So we're going to go to the next question. And this one was, I think it's a pretty easy one. But then when I look back at it, I was like, oh, well, maybe it wasn't that easy. But Daniel has a PPR question. It's his flex question. It's Jamison Williams versus Ramondre Stevenson. Which one are you going with, Greg?
Williams is clearly the more explosive player. I mean, there's no doubt. And last week proved that if you had any doubts, because it's hard, but to me, it's hard to depend on 6 opportunities to produce starting points. Now, Williams can do more with less opportunities than almost any player. But since coming back from his suspension, he was suspended 2 games. He's had 5 and 6 targets. Now, he did have 1 run too, but the run turned into a 2-yarder. The 5 and 6 targets turned into 3 and 4 touches. That's just not a lot. Stevenson, on the other hand, does much less with much more opportunities. He's had 20 carries the last 2 games.
Right.
And he's also had 5 receptions. but he hasn't scored. Okay. And Jameson has been getting in the end zone. But bottom line, I think it depends on was it Daniel? Yeah, I think it depends on Daniel's team. Okay. And the matchup. If you feel confident about your chances this week, go with Stevenson. He offers the most secure floor. All right. But if you are in doubt or you think you need to maximize your scoring, I think Williams gives you the much higher ceiling. He can put up 20 points on 8 touches. I don't think Stevenson can do that.
Yeah. This is a situation, it does need a little bit more, I guess, meat from it. We need to know what his record is. We need to know, does he need this win to get into the playoffs? Does he need to be aggressive? Because if that is the case, then yes, Jameson Williams is the play here. Because although he's not going to get the same amount of opportunities that Ramondre Stevenson will, he's still just very exposed. He could take one play to the house just like that, and all of a sudden you have 15 points on your bench. So I think you go with Jameson Williams, excuse me, here. And then the Colts are giving up 270 yards to their visiting teams. They're actually a little bit better when they're on the road.
270 yards. I mean, what did Detroit get last week?
Oh, like what?
Didn't they set a record with 645 yards?
I think
after kneel downs. 645 after kneel downs.
I don't think they get quite 600, but I do see a 400-yard game, a 400-yard total game from them. And Jameson Williams, I think he could be an orchestrator or an architect of that. I think that you got to go with him because I want, at this point in the season, you want explosiveness. You want to show that, look, my team can go off at any moment. I don't know who his other running backs are. Hopefully he has some good running backs, but you know what? You could probably slide with all the bye weeks. We got Breece Hall, Alvin Kamara, Bijan Robinson. We've got Chase Brown. We've got 4 really good running backs that I just talked about that are on bye week. Chances are, I don't know who his other running backs are, but maybe he could slide Ramondre in there as well, because I like Ramondre this week as well. And you'll have to tune into the
10 to 12 point guy is what he is.
You have to tune into the Tonight Show to find out why I like Ramondre a little bit more. But other than that, I think Ramondre, I think he's a safe bet too for 10 to 12 points, which you want a good combination of both. But I think the more upside is. Are
you saying Ramondre is a sleeper to start?
I didn't say that, but you just tune into the show. You guys just really got to tune in.
All right. I think you're probably saying something about historic opportunities.
Hey, this week coming up is Thanksgiving week. It happened in New England. Ramondre plays in New England. So maybe we have to talk a little bit about, the Thanksgiving thing. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll talk. But you guys, either way, you need to tune in. All right. So our last question before we get to the idiot call of the week, Greg, we'll need to talk about that in a minute. But our last question is from Roger. And he asked, Chuba Hubbard or DeAndre Swift. Now, we talked a little bit about this before the show, but I'm going to go ahead and let you start off with this one, Greg.
I think both players have tough matchups. Chuba, he's a bit hotter than Swift. Swift's averaging 12.7 points per game over the past 3 games.
Right.
He's also getting 3 receptions per game over the same time. Hubbard's averaging 18.4 and 3.3 receptions. Okay. On defense, KC, who Hubbard is facing, is number 1. Okay, but Minnesota, Swift's facing them. They're number 2. Right. And their results are remarkably similar. KC's given up 5 TDs to running backs, all rushing. All right. Minnesota's only given up 3 rushing TDs, but they have given up 2 receiving TDs to backs. So they've both given up 5 TDs to running backs. They've allowed 42 and 45 receptions, respectively. Minnesota's allowed 165 more total yards, rushing and receiving the backs. But over 10 weeks, that's just 16.5 point yards per game. It's just not a lot of difference. So I go with the hot hand. I'm going to start Hubbard in this one.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And by the way, Tipp did inform me of something pre-show that I'm sure he's going to bring up that makes me feel a lot better about my pick.
Yeah. So yesterday, yesterday was Wednesday, right? Wednesday are usually a rest day for veterans. A lot of veteran players, especially players that have been getting a lot of opportunities the week before. So last week or yesterday, excuse me, DeAndre Swift did miss practice with a groin issue. Now he did. I just checked it just right now while Greg was talking. He did return to a limited practice. Groin injuries are very tricky though. So he could have had a good limited practice, tweak something tonight, tomorrow in practice. So tomorrow is the big day for Swift. I'm still going Chuba Hubbard because we talked about it earlier. I think they're going to be so down in this game. They're going to have no choice but to pass the ball because you got a pissed off Kansas City Chiefs team that lost last week. So I think that Hubbard is the play here. He's going to have the most opportunities for pass catching. And again, DeAndre Swift, this might be a situation where Roschon Johnson gets in. So again, if waivers are open in your leagues, go out there and pick up Roschon Johnson. I picked him up in the Scott Fish Bowl about 5 or 6 weeks ago because you never know with these running backs. It gets colder, the situations that they go through with their injuries. So I picked him up, and I'm happy I did because I might have a situation where I can play him. So go out there in all of your leagues, not just the Scott Fish Bowl. Go out there in all of your leagues and check to see if Roschon Johnson is available. If he is, I would scoop him up immediately for yourself. So I think it is Chuba Hubbard though for that. All right, Greg, we are here.
Well, you got to remind people what the idiot call was last week.
Oh no, I got no. Look, Greg, I got you. I got them written down right here for you.
Okay. Well,
so last week we had Terry McLaurin. His over or under was set at 61.5. Greg took the over. I took the under. He ended up getting 12 yards last week. So I won that one. And you know what? It wasn't that it was a bad call on Greg's behalf. Greg thought that it was going to be more of a shootout. That game was a lame duck game at the beginning in the first half. It didn't start really doing.
And let's not forget that McLaurin was my stud to sit.
He was your stud to sit. You did say that. You just thought that he was going to get more than 61.5 yards. And I wanted to agree with you, but that
51. I think it was 51.5. It was really low.
It was. Well, I look back. Well, I look back at the notes that I wrote, and it was 60. Okay. I had 61. But but what I will say is this: I will say that the Philadelphia Eagles defense is for real. That is a good defense. I don't know if they're good enough to stop Detroit, but that is a good defense over there with that defensive line and the back end guys. The second one was Josh Allen, 33.5 rushing yards. And Greg, you looked good on this one until Josh Allen won the game with that 35-yard touchdown run that he had. He ended up going over 50 yards rushing. So that one was a little bit closer. I get it. I thought that it was going to be a situation.
Didn't we both go over under on that?
I had you as no. You're right. We both went over on that one. Yep, we both went over.
So we both got that one right.
We both got that one. That was a push. But you got this last one wrong. I told you last week that Caleb Williams was going to throw for over 203
yards. Yeah,
I said he was going to throw for over 203, but not much more over that. And he ended up getting right at 230 yards. It was a new offensive coordinator, that came on. I think that the team looked a little bit better. They didn't look as flat, but it's still a rookie. It's still Caleb Williams. You took the under on that one. I took the over. So this week you have a chance to redeem yourself. You went two. You lost two. Me and you tied on
2-1.
So we're gonna talk about this next one. This next one is interesting for me. Jerry Jeudy, who has been hot as of late, especially getting a ton of targets. He's averaging over 10 targets in the last 3 games. Jared Jeudy, 3.5 receptions this tonight. Over or under? What do you call it?
Well, I called it over. Only because he's been getting a lot of receptions recently. Yeah. But that's a tough matchup against Pittsburgh.
It is tough, but I agree with you. I think that he does get slightly over that. I do think this might be a bigger Njoku game. Cedric Tillman, let's talk about him for a second because Cedric Tillman was the talk of the town the last 3 weeks before their bye. And then he comes back and he doesn't do anything last week. What are your thoughts on Cedric Tillman tonight?
I think it's a tough matchup.
Yeah.
I do believe that Tillman's a quality receiver, but everything depends on quarterback play, and you
Right.
just don't know what you're going to get week to week. And what do you think on him? Do you like him?
I like him a little bit more this week. I do agree with you as a tough matchup. The weather is supposed to be kind of funky over there. I think right now, as of right now, it's probably they're supposed to be getting some precipitation, possibly a little bit of wintry mix. So that if that happens throughout the game, that does benefit the offense. I feel like because the offense, Greg, you've talked about it. We talked about it last week when we had Dennis on, the meteorologist. That helps the offense because the offense knows where they're going. So that could be something where we see a broken play happen here or there. I do like Cedric Tillman. I think that I didn't pick Cedric Tillman because I think this Jerry Jeudy is something that we need to start looking at and start watching. I got him in a few leagues. I haven't started him in very many leagues, but I think the 3.5 over under is something that we could definitely both agree that I think it'll happen this week. This one was tough for me. Kyren Williams over under.
Wait a minute, you had another one. You're not going to do it?
Well, oh no. So I texted you. I just did 3 of them. I didn't.
Okay.
We're not gonna do all
well, let's tell them what the over/under is for Jalen Hurts, and it won't count in the idiot call, but we can tell them what we think.
It was 224. Is that what you? Because I took it off the show.
224 and a half.
Yeah, 224 and a half. What do you think on that one?
I went under. I just think once they get the lead, it becomes a Saquon Barkley game. And we lost Tipp. There he is. He's back.
There we go. I don't know what happened.
So what do you say? Over or under for 224 and a half? Not a big explanation.
I kind of have. I think this one might be a little bit more of a shootout. So I'm going a slight over on this one. Jalen Hurts played so bad last week, especially in the first half. Passing the ball, he really didn't have a great game. I think that
if you look at his game logs, he's up and down on yardage.
Yeah,
he's really up and down on yardage. So it's a crapshoot. He could go over, he could go under. I just think that when you have a team that you're way better than, right. I say this, and then Jared Goff goes for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns when they're up 52-6.
Yeah, I think he goes slightly over. I kind of take the Caleb Williams approach. I don't think he's gonna like blow us up for like 320 yards or anything like that. I'm thinking 240 because you're gonna have to keep up with this. The one thing I do think that's gonna happen with this game is I feel like we know that the Eagles struggle in the first quarter scoring points. I think that the Rams are going to come out hot and heavy. They're going to score maybe a touchdown, maybe be up by like 10 points, and that's going to force Jalen Hurts to throw the ball. And that's where I think it's going to happen. So that's why I think that he goes slightly over. Like I would say,
we differed on that one. Then
we differed on that one. We differed on that one, but you know what? We didn't pick that one this week. So the next one we have is Kyren Williams, 75 yards rushing.
Well, I went over.
Okay. Why? Why did you go over?
Corm's not eating into his carries. Even when Corm gets 4 carries for 20 yards, 25 yards.
Yeah.
Or I think he had 5 carries for 25 yards. Williams still getting 20 touches. So as long as Williams getting the workload, he's been performing. So I looked at Williams' recent games, and he's been lighting it up. And I think the Eagles have a good defense, but I think they're better on pass defense than rushing defense. And I just think that Williams is a better back than I gave him credit for being.
Yeah, I took the under slightly on this one. It's been really tough with Kyren Williams these last 3 games because he has not scored a touchdown. That's what you usually hang your hat on with him. You know, he gets in the end zone. He may not get a bunch of yardage, but he gets in the end zone. I think that this week, I think that he gets under that. I'm going to look at it one more time.
We got a difference. That's good.
Yeah, I'm going to look at it one more time for these Eagles because these Eagles, yes, that's okay. 83 yards giving up rushing. That's total for the total offense. That's running backs, that's quarterbacks, that's
That's games against the Cowboys.
Well, no, look, you play who you play. That's jet sweeps. That's all sorts of plays like that. So I think that they hold Kyren Williams under, because I know that this is the thing that the Eagles are going to look at. They're going to look at, we got to worry about Cooper Kupp. We got to worry about Puka Nacua. We got to stop them. But it's all predicated on really stopping the run. And if you can stop Kyren Williams, which that big defensive front should be able to stop Kyren Williams, then you get a situation where, okay, now we got to pick our poison with Cooper Kupp. And so I think they give up the pass a little bit, or try to contain the pass as best they can, but just really, really keen in on stopping the run. And 83 yards per game, the last 3 games, they're under 100 yards for the whole season. Actually, they're at 99.9. That's under 100 for the whole season. I think that's a situation where we get we see Kyren kind of struggle a little bit in this one, and I don't think he gets in the end zone either this week. Although the Philadelphia Eagles have been giving up a touchdown to running backs in the last 3 or 4 games, I think this is a week that they really stop Kyren Williams. So I really think that they're up for the challenge. So we disagree on that one. The last one is, and I lost it. Greg, do you have it?
I've got 2 more. I got Joe Mixon anytime TD. I said yes because he scores every week.
Yeah, you got to go with that one.
Well, that was one. And then Kyler Murray, 217.5 passing yards versus Seattle.
Yes.
And I went over. Seattle gives up a lot of passing yards.
They do. And I went over on that one too. I thought it was a pretty easy one. Although, look, I will say it's a divisional game. It is in Seattle, but I think that
if we're both going over and we're both saying yes to the Mixon touchdown, let's put in the Jalen Hurts one as the idiot call, because we disagreed on that.
Let's do it. We'll do that. So I'll rewrite the note on there and I'll put Jalen Hurts as it. I do think that Kyler Murray is going to get nice on this game. Last week, right? Last week, we saw a team in the Seattle Seahawks beat the 49ers later in the game. It was off of a Geno Smith touchdown. I was thinking that the 49ers were going to try to make a push, especially since the Cardinals were on bye. I think the 49ers may be on the way out. So you're right.
They may be done. That's right.
I think they might be done too. Because look, the Rams are still the Rams. The Cardinals have been playing really good all year. And I think Kyler Murray is starting to come into his own. And I agree with you what you said. The Seattle Seahawks do give up points to in the passing game. So I think that's going to be a situation where, Kyler Murray, I don't think he's going to go 300 yards or anything like that, but I could see 250, 260 yards passing.
You don't see 450 yards?
No, I don't think so.
4 touchdowns?
No, I mean, you still got Trey Benson. You got James Conner there as well. I think they're going to try to run the ball, beat up on him a little bit. James Conner has had some really good games in Seattle against the Seahawks in the past. So that should be – you're going to see James Conner. I know I've been talking a lot about Trey Benson, but James Conner, this bye week came at a perfect time for him to get some rest, to get his body right, and, whatever ailments that he had to go with those. But I also think Trey Benson is another nice little piece too that a lot of people need to look.
There's somebody in tonight's show that's going to talk about Trey Benson, and I think that's important. Hey, listen, guys, tune in tonight in just over an hour, and we have the Thursday checkdown where we give you studs to sit, sleepers to start, and our Joe last week was 11-year-old Mason Steinberg. Mason Lindbergh, and he lit it up. He was perfect. We asked for what tight end is going to score the closest to 80 yards. He picked one that gained 81 yards. You going to get closer. This is an 11-year-old kid that did that. He also got his stud to sit perfectly, and he got his put me in coach. He said to sit Justin Jefferson. He said to start Jamison Williams. Both of those were excellent calls. Both of them. So
it was such a good call. I might be tailing him on that. Just Jamison Williams this week.
I think you are. That's
So we do have a question in the chat. It's from Jerry, good friend of mine and a guy that I actually co-own a team with or co-manage a team with. And he asked Geno Smith or Matthew Stafford this week. And what do you say, Greg? I think both have good opportunities to get some points.
I think Geno's got the easier matchup, but I think Stafford is the better quarterback.
Yeah.
And Stafford's got both of his big receivers back. I'm going Stafford.
I am too. I'm going slightly Stafford on this one. Geno Smith coming off of a big high game that they won last week. I kind of feel like we might get a little bit of a letdown from them going against an Arizona defense that's been pretty tough, especially in the past here as of late. But there's no question that the Seattle Seahawks, that is what they do. They throw the ball and they continue to throw the ball. But I just
saw Bear fan Pete jump in.
Oh, what's up, Pete?
Well, that reminded me. Pete is going to be our pro next week, and the show will be Wednesday night and an hour earlier because we don't want to interfere with Carla's show. So we want to make sure our show is done well before Carla's. But because Thursday is Thanksgiving, which I totally spaced on, Tipp saved me there, we will be broadcasting live Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern time.
Yes, perfect. Yep, we sure will, man. And that's the show for today. We talked about the Idjit calls of the week. I will make sure to get the new one on there.
Yeah, you got to get your Big Mac from me, man.
Yeah, I gotta get the big. I'm still holding out. I'm gonna save those Big Mac. I want that lobster. I want the lobster dinner.
You're not getting lobster from me. I'm not doing that. Even if I owe you 20 Big Macs at the end of the year, I'm not getting you lobster. You come to the Philippines, I'll buy it there.
Oh man. All right. Well, I may have to talk to my girlfriend Alana and see if we could try to make a trip out there to the Philippines.
You would love it.
I bet. I absolutely, because isn't the Philippines a good mixture of beaches and mountains?
It's 7,103 islands.
Okay, so it's mainly.
So an island may have a mountain. Okay. They do have, because they're volcanic in nature. Okay. So yes, beaches and mountains. The water is the bluest you have ever seen, and it's clear. You can see 20 feet down. Wow. It is amazing water. And the people, almost all of them, especially young people, speak English because they learn it in school. Okay? So they almost all speak English. That makes it easier. And the cost of living, it is a third world country by definition, but it's modern. They have one of the largest malls in the world, in the Mall of Asia in Manila. Yeah, if you Google Mall of Asia in Manila, it's huge and it's modern. Wow. And they have theaters. They have now. If you go out in the provinces, people live in shacks. Okay, the money's not there, but you can eat lobster dinner probably for $15. So I'll buy you lobster there.
You might need to give me a gift card from one of those places, and if I ever go out to the Philippines, you can do that. That'll be cool.
I'm not sure they would honor gift cards, but
I got a question real quick about the Philippines. Where was the Thrilla in Manila? Where was that? Was that outside or was that in Manila? Stadium? Well, no, but where was it? Was it just outside in like a?
I don't know. I'm not a boxing fan, but I'll tell you this. Minnesota has a DB named Bynum.
Yes. Oh, his wife.
Cameron
Bynum. Yeah.
He is Filipino.
Right.
Bruno Mars is Filipino. I just saw a thing today where Bruno Mars's family went to the Philippines to see him perform in the Philippines. So they got to see their son, a Filipino native, perform live. Now, he's lived in the U.S. since he was young, but he is a Filipino citizen. So Filipinos are known for their singing. When you know who Journey is, right?
Yeah.
When Journey changed Steve Perry left Journey, they brought in a new singer. Sounded just like Steve Perry.
That's crazy.
He's from the Philippines. Those people sing all the time.
Well, you don't have to sell me. When you said beaches and mountains, I'm good because I love both.
Here, I grew up in the 50s and 60s. I was born in 55. In the 50s and 60s in small town America, you walk down the street, you see somebody you don't know, you say hello, and they say hello back, and maybe you get in a conversation. That's how America was in the 50s and 60s. That's how the Philippines are today. And not just in the small towns, in the big cities too.
Okay. Wow.
Friendliest people in the world. Friendliest people in the world.
And Greg, you have been all over the world, so I can.
34 countries.
When you say that, I have to believe you. But that is the show for today, guys. Look, tune in. Greg, what's our time? We got 1 hour and 3 minutes. We will be back on. We got Jagger May from Football Guys, and we got a guy named Carlton. And
Carlton.
You figure out which Carlton it is. Now, I was going to make a joke about Carlton from Fresh Prince, but
our Joe is Carlton.
Oh,
Joe is Carlton.
Yeah. Right. His name is Joe, right? And it's I was so confused when
Joe Carlton.
I was just like, bro, I'm gonna call you Carlton so we can do the Carlton dance all night, so I was ready. But other than that, guys, this is Tipp. Greg, appreciate you being on. Love the fedora. We will see you guys in about 1 hour and 3 minutes. Peace.